February 7th, 2024. I want to discuss the big topic at the moment, which is the so-called border bill or the Emergency National Security Supplemental Act of 2024. At any rate, whichever you want to call it, I guess the official title actually is, for once, actually is more about what it really is, that is the Ukraine bill and so forth, than it is about actual border security. But anyhow, I guess we'll maybe as early as today that there'll be some action in the Senate on. At least that wasn't what it was originally promised. However, sometimes these things don't happen when they're exactly promised. So we don't know exactly what the timing will be, but sometime later in the week, it may come up or maybe get dropped. I somehow doubt they're going to drop it, but we'll see. And certainly there's some opposition on the Republican side. Of course, Senator Langford has been pretty much hung out to dry by McConnell and whoever else is behind this thing. And so we'll go into a little bit about what we know now. I would have to say this, that if he was the negotiator for a union with a major company and they went in looking for a pay raise and more benefits, they might come out with a massive pay cut and no benefits. This thing is really a travesty. It's a horrible thing, given the leverage that we had, which of course indicates the main point is that the people behind it are more interested in funding the war in Ukraine than they are securing our own border. And that's definitely evident in this thing. I'm not sure everything you've heard, even from the right, is exactly correct, but most of it is. And I can get into a little bit of that. I've been trying to peruse the thing a little bit before this recording to kind of get an idea of what's in it, what I can find out. Of course, it's a very dense reading. So the big thing, which I said some time ago on my Oh Hell No video, which pretty much has been confirmed, and in fact, it may be a bit worse than that, but certainly the 5,000 immigrants a day limit before the border is to be shut down on a mandatory basis. It is in there. It also is, if a single day it reaches 8,500 in a day, it would be shut down on a mandatory basis. However, there's a few other caveats in this that need to be looked at as well. By the way, if you like these videos, please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't, because I try to get the best information I can for everybody. And of course, you can click the bell for notifications. So anyhow, yeah, effectively what we've got here, again, is that one of the concerns I have, okay, was would this bill in any way tie the hands of a future president who might be a lot better than our current one in enforcing the law as written? And that one, I would have to say, I don't see anything there so far on that. The problem, the 5,000, of course, is you have to have 7 days, a full week of 5,000 for it to become mandatory, and then when it drops back below a certain level, that goes away in 2 weeks or something like that. If the single day records 8,500 in a day, then that would be enough to cause a mandatory shutdown. Now, and there's other things they tout in there. However, one thing that's kind of noted is the people that don't count. Unaccompanied children don't count, except for, well, that encourages them actually doing the horrible thing of stripping children away from their parents and sending them in unaccompanied. And who knows what, we all know the horrible things that are happening to those children on the way up here. So I don't think, so while it might sound good, take care of the children, I do think that the way it's, in reality, it's there'll be people taking care of them, but not the way that would be decent, you might say. So that's another flaw in this thing. But the number 5,000, even if it was real, is just way too much. That means you can get, like, I think the thing somehow says you could do it at 4,000, but does that imply you couldn't do it at 3,000 if you wanted to? Is it undermining the existing law where the president can just shut it down? unclear. Um, and that's another reason to oppose this thing. Um, and I think that's the main thing. The other thing they tout is the idea that they will have more beds for detention, going up from 32,000 to 50,000. Okay, excuse me, 34 to 50. That's only 16,000 more beds. I mean, given the number of people coming across at the amount we're talking about here, that's a drop in the bucket. And they're not even using right now the ones they have. And remember, we're still relying on the current administration to actually implement this thing, which is pretty bad. So, and other things I've noticed, and this is a real showstopper. Any legal issues that come about this immigration issue now get directed to the D.C. district courts, which are very dominated by the Democrat Party. So you can generally see who's going to win any of these decisions. Um, it sounds like that in itself is enough reason to oppose it, even if nothing else was there. It also apparently still preserves the Flores decision, which is a known one, which caused us a lot of trouble in the past. Because remember, when adults are accompanied by children, you can't just assume that they're family. Many times the independent children are tagged with an adult who is hardly a family member. And until they're separated and actually, interrogated safely in a separate environment, they may be under intimidation to say, yes, it is my uncle or my father or something. So these are real issues that one has to take into account. So, and of course, the Flores decision really doesn't. There's another thing. The other point is they supposedly have, a tighter issues about, other than just saying, I fear in my home country. They have other questions. Could you go someplace else in your home country, or could you go to another country on the way, and all this sort of thing. But the cartels give these people the talking points, what to say. So they're going to tell them what to say, and they're going to lie, of course. So of course they're going to lie and ask them, "Are you a convicted criminal?" Well, they're going to say no. How are you going to know whether they're a convicted criminal or not? How are you going to have a positive idea of who they really are? I mean, this is all a travesty. And the biggest thing I would have to say about it is it's a major, major lost opportunity. The whole idea, when I proposed the idea some time back of using the aid to Ukraine, the $60 billion, as a lever to try to get real reform, something like in the House Bill number 2, H.R. 2, in a compromise deal, that was what I was talking about. And people may criticize what the two have to do with each other. The answer is leverage in both cases. The administration wants the money to continue their war in Ukraine, and we want real border security. The idea was, okay, we both have something that may be slightly distasteful to the other, but we'll both compromise and put them together. But instead, this is basically a fundamental capitulation. And if it does anything on the border at all it's doing is trying to prevent the thing from escalating further out of control, which is actually starting to hurt the current administration because their own people in their sanctuary cities are starting to get very upset at the disruption and expense. It's affecting the minority communities because guess whose community center or school gets used for illegal immigrants? Yes, the people in the minority communities. So that's why it's backfiring on the Democrats that have been doing this. But definitely I've certainly contacted both of my senators today, urging them to vote against it and explaining why. And I hope you can use the material on this if you feel up to contacting your senators, because we really, really, really want this thing to fail. Because after all, the House has enough trouble right now. I mean, let's look at the farce that just happened yesterday. You have attempt to do a impeachment of Mayorkas, who's obviously completely impeachable, and what happens? This is the saddest thing. We full expected the outgoing Congressman Buck, who's a jerk, who's quitting, okay, to do this. But Gallagher and McClintock, they're the people that stabbed us in the back. I mean, good grief. I mean, that is so horrible. I mean, do these people, I mean, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what Gallagher is thinking about. I mean, doesn't he as a Marine, doesn't he understand about unit cohesion? The Republican caucus is his unit, for goodness sakes. Does he support illegal immigration? Of course not. But he says, well, this may set a precedent. The Democrats have already set the precedent. They did it with the impeachment of Trump after he was already out of office, for one thing. And certainly the impeachment for the phone call was completely asinine. So, in my opinion, that is not a good excuse. And then I guess the one guy, the other guy whose name slips my mind right at the moment, the joint that changed his vote, he did that as a procedural matter, so don't hold that against him. That's so they can bring it up later. If we just might happen to get, our Scalise back away from his medical treatment, if he can recover and get back to work, and if we can win that election in New York, which I have no idea what the odds are on that are. By the way, if you have any money and can contribute to it, please do so. I threw him my $25 to the lady, so let's hope that she can win. But at any rate, so that was a big disappointment. But primarily, I think at the moment, I think the only thing, if you can, I guess 3 Democrats are even opposing this thing. I guess they don't think that 5,000 a day is enough. So anyhow, but that's one of the issues that you got those people. So I guess that it means that they have to come up with 12 Republicans to support it at the present time. It probably is dead, but I wouldn't assume it's dead. You're sure, So I'm still putting out the thing. Maybe by the end of this run of this video, we'll have an idea or not. It might drag into the next week or two. I think there's some thought that maybe they'll do cloture to begin debate and then try to do amendments and see if they can get anything in that would improve it. Although this thing is so bad, I don't see it improved unless it's massively changed, like change 5,000 to 1,000 or something like that. And that even is large, but I mean, at least it would be something. But at any rate, I don't think that's going to happen. So we're now left with the idea that McConnell wants to go with a clean bill, that is, take the border stuff out of it, I guess. Well, I don't know. They still need money for the border to process all the illegals. I don't know how that's going to go. Maybe just split up the foreign aid. But I think at this point we ought to continue to block the Ukraine money until people come to their senses. I know that they tried to pass an aid bill for Israel, but they already have passed one for Israel. So it does have a little bit of a bite that's paid for out of taking money out of the IRS, 80-some billion from the last budget. But I mean, the Democrats could strip that out in the Senate and send it back over if they want to get that through. And they weren't going to pass it anyhow. So that's more of a political thing right now. But I think we should hold off and block this thing until we see if we can get them to finally get reasonable and get some decent negotiation. One thought occurs to me would be that if this thing did come across to the House, if the Republicans could get their act together, which I doubt they could, would be to strip out the provision, the border provisions they have in here, and replace it with HR 2, and then vote on it and send it back to the Senate and let them kill it over there if they want to. But anyhow, that's kind of my thought on this for the moment. And of course, as always, I'll be posted here on YouTube and also on Rumble as well. So that's and of course the addresses of my social media accounts are in the description below. So it's all for this time.